Welcome to Groundhog Day, she says. California Republican Darrell Issa joins me now, chairman of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Welcome, Congressman Issa. Good to have you back again.
Well, thanks for covering this important issue, Martha.
You heard the ladies. They're saying, look, enough is enough. This passed. Then the Supreme Court upheld it. You've tried 33 times to overturn it and repeal it in the House. And as you know, the White House has said, move on.
Well, they didn't say move on when one of those votes was to repeal the 1099 provision. They shouldn't object if we try to repeal the medical device tax, but they would. The fact is that this bill, although constitutional based on our power to tax, was derived, and that's what we had Democrats voting with, was derived by lying about it being a tax. And the 21 taxes that are embedded in Obamacare include taxes that run up the cost of health care. Our hearings yesterday dealt with regular people, the people that employ or are employed, realizing that driving up the cost of health care is not driving up affordability, which is ultimately what the American people want. They want to be able to afford their health care, not have it break the bank whether they get it or not.
All right, couple quick questions. Let's deal with the House first. Were you surprised that 5 Democrats, it's crept a little higher, 5 Democrats voted on your side?
I'm always surprised there aren't more Democrats who, either based on the lies on what would be in the bill or based on the taxes and the other broken promises, aren't voting with us. But former Speaker Pelosi is pretty tough on people. She'll primary people, she'll hurt people who don't vote with her. But I'm very happy that we had 5 there, and of course on holding Eric Holder in contempt, we had 17 Democrats who crossed party lines.
All right, let's go to the other side, over to the Senate. What do you expect will happen with this when it heads over there?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
The makeup of the Senate is still about not allowing fair votes. If they allowed real votes on many of the sub-portions of Obamacare, it would be gone. Every time we send a repeal, it's because it's built on bad assumptions. And if we're going to drive down the cost of health care, increase availability and affordability, we've got to start over with something that attacks the cost. And yesterday, in both the morning and the afternoon hearings, the one thing the Democrats never even tried to fight was the fact that Obamacare does nothing to drive down cost, and costs have risen under the time leading into the implementation of Obamacare.
So what do you think of the fact, when you look at some of these new polls since the Supreme Court decision, the number of people who are opposed, of Americans who are polled to the health care reform bill, has dropped a little bit since that Supreme Court decision. So do you feel at all at odds with what the polls in the country are telling us?
Well, Martha, remember that most of the taxes are just kicking in. People are going to start paying next year and the year after additional taxes. They're going to see the cost of a hip replacement go up because a medical device has an additional tax placed on it. Imagine we say we want people to get health care, and then in order to implement it, we actually tax the products, making them more expensive. That's what Obamacare did. It taxed income producers, it taxed savings, it taxed the devices themselves, and ultimately, it has already led to higher prices. Remember, if you can afford health care, you'll get health care. And if our country cannot be competitive and afford health care, then in fact we will all hurt. Estimates of over 800,000 jobs being lost directly as a result of implementation. 800,000 jobs. We haven't produced that many jobs this year.
That's how bad
seconds,
it is. So a quick answer if you can. But I mean, some say, well, enough with the repeals, 33 times the vote in the House. Why don't you tell us what you'd like to do? Put out a specific proposal about how you would do it.
Well, first of all, I'd like to strip out this concept of we take $2,000 from the employer if he doesn't provide health care. We take $2,000 from the employee if they can't afford health care. Right now, government is set to take $4,000 to $5,000 from the employer and employee without providing any health care. The first thing we would do is eliminate these so-called penalties that became a tax and at least have them apply toward health care. If there's $4,000 to put into health care, why should we take it and put it in the Treasury when, in fact, at least that could go into a health savings account for those people who need health care?
Congressman Issa, thank you. Good to see you. We'll see where this goes, if anywhere. Congressman.